Hello everybody, welcome back to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and today we're going to be doing predictions for the Rainbow Six Siege Reload event, which is kind of like a major, kind of not a major. It certainly replaces one of the majors. Let's talk about a few details before we get into the predictions proper. So, a few high-level details. This tournament features all 20 global partner teams in the 2025 R6 Share program. That is just the 20 teams that Ubisoft loves the most. This tournament will be the first time Siege X is used in professional play. Some of the audio, the visual, and some other things have been sort of revamped. Hopefully it works out well. With Siege's track record of implementing new things into the game, I think it is kind of dubious, but here's hoping. And a unique reload to survive group stage system. So there is an insane system for the first portion of this event, and then it moves into a standard 8-team single elimination bracket. So we'll take a pretty brief look at that, but it's kind of crazy, so you'll have to stay with me on that one. And then again, as I said, yeah, pretty standard once we get past the first phase. Quite a bit of money on the line. These are the 20 teams participating. Let's see if I can get them all on the screen. So Cyclops, Cloud9, Dark Zero, Elevate, FaZe, FearX, Fnatic, Furia, G2, Loud, M80, Talon, Scars, Space Station, BDS, Falcons, Liquid, Secret, W7M, and Wildcard are the orgs. Here are the players. Most of these teams have roster changes coming into the event. I'm not going to go into detail because, as traditionally happens, it's going to take me too long to do so. So these are the teams. You can pause it and take a look at the rosters if you want. And let's take a look at the format. This is this format is, as I've said before, it's pretty crazy for the first portion. Really hard to understand. When this first came out, before I looked at it, I saw people saying like you need a PhD to understand this, and I thought surely it can't be that bad, but it is surely that bad. It is absolutely insane. It's going to be, I think, for most people, a sit back and enjoy the chaos sort of thing. For the people participating in and casting whatnot the event, I imagine there's going to be a lot of slip ups, a lot of misunderstandings in how things work, unless they're all just hard at work getting their PhDs to understand it as we speak. Starting bullets and reloading. So this is like lives and gaining lives and whatever. I'm not going to go into all this because it's just too much to try to explain. If it were, if it didn't have these cards, I think it would be quite a bit more straightforward. But this is just like you have passive abilities and then you have these single use cards. It's the whole thing. The one thing I did want to highlight here, there's the duel card. If a team is facing elimination, they can invoke this card to initiate a 1v1 duel. So you can challenge a team to a 1v1. We'll have to see how it actually plays out. I imagine each team gets to pick their representative. I would be surprised if like the team that challenges gets to choose who 1v1s whom, like which player against which player from each team. We're going to have to see how it plays out. That's just one thing I wanted to highlight. As far as the predictions, a lot more simple. There's the two phases. We can only do the first one. As of now, we have to see which teams qualify for the second phase in order to predict that, but we just have to guess the 8 teams that qualify, 1 point per each team. And then in the second phase, there are 7 points possible. So only 15 points possible. You can win some alpha packs. You can win a premium Year 10 Season 2 Battle Pass. And you can win an exclusive R4C Creative Destruction skin. Very cool. Now let's get back to the actual prediction page. So you have plenty of time to get these in. You could wait to see if any developments occur, like if any players can't make it due to visa issues or if anyone gets sick or whatever. But I would recommend just submitting your predictions now, and then you can go in and save them later. So lots of time to do it. Again, can't do the second part as of yet, but for now, let's do this. So some teams that I'm definitely not going to be predicting: FearX, sorry dogs. Cyclops, I think maybe they had a pretty reasonable SI performance. Will they keep that up? I don't know about that, but I think they're kind of on the table. Cloud9 is not a new org to the game, I suppose. They're sort of in and out, but not the most promising roster in the world. They're sort of underdogs you could root for, but not a team I'm going to be picking to advance. Dark Zero, they're a potential team, but let's lock in a few teams here. So FaZe Clan, they are the reigning world champions, de facto best team in the world, so pretty hard to not pick them. And then the other one you gotta pretty much lock in is not BDS, because that is no longer the players that just play second at SI. They are now on Team Falcon. So again, BDS, you can pick them if you're a big believer in the likes of Freck, Lasmo, P4, Robbie, and Virtue. If you think this team will do well, you can pick them, but that is not this team. That is not Bride, Leakafact, Shaiko, Solotov, and Yuza. Don't think I'll be picking these guys. I will be picking Team Falcons. Who else do I want to pick? I think Space Station should be pretty good. I'm excited to see Newers on the team. I think there are certainly some question marks in regards to him replacing Forrest. I think Newers is a better player than Forrest, but there are team considerations that do raise those question marks. So I think they are pretty reasonable to at least make top 8. However, M80, I think a lot of people are going to put a lot of stock in them for good reason. That's most of the Manchester Major winning team, and then when they are unwanted at SI, some of them at least, they also performed quite well. I think I probably will have Dark Zero here. The other two NA teams I don't think are very safe picks at all. Cloud9 we talked about, and then Wildcard. I don't think I'll probably pick either of those. I think Liquid is like reasonable. They've not been amazing. They finally made some roster changes. I think that'll breathe some new life into this team. I think a lot of the other teams are just like not very impressive. So I think I might go with Liquid. Let's see if we replace them. I don't think I'm going with any of the APAC teams. Again, I think you can make an argument for Cyclops. Elevate is a Brazilian roster now playing in APAC. Very cool. Who else do we have from APAC? Talon. Fabian is no longer the coach, if you think that was a really important factor. They did have a pretty promising showing at SI. They lost some games they maybe shouldn't have lost, but they had some really close bouts against some really close teams. I think, again, showed a lot of promise. If you think it doesn't matter how close the games are, if you don't close them out, maybe you don't agree, but I think, again, they showed some promise there. And then Scars, who they had their moment in the sun, but they've looked pretty bad for quite a while. They did make, I think, a non-zero number of roster changes in the meantime. So, oh yeah, W7M, I think they're a pretty solid pick. They just picked up Palu, which is a very exciting change, leaving Liquid. He was the second longest standing player in the world on any team, second only to his teammate Nesk on the very same team. And who do I want to go with for the final one? Wildcard, Secret, BDS. These are at least teams from not APAC. Am I gonna go with Cyclops? Who's on Loud? Let me double check. Who's on Loud? Baseto, Daffodil, Live, Perez, SDK. So this is actually most of they were E1 and then they were Raza Company at SI where they had a pretty reasonable performance. I think I'll probably go with those guys given those factors. Yeah, they had a really solid, very recent performance. So I'll probably go with them. And then let's see, is there anybody I feel like, oh yeah, G2 is actually they're a pretty reasonable pick. Is there somebody I want to get rid of here? FaZe Falcons are like locked in. Space Station, I think they're pretty close to locked in. M80 Dark Zero, I could definitely see one of these guys not making it. Liquid, Liquid or G2? W7M, I think they're a pretty safe pick. Loud seems pretty reasonable. G2, let's see if we can slot them in, and then that's probably the only other team that I really want to get in there. Maybe Cyclops. I bet on Cyclops once to make it out of group stage at a major, and that did happen. So they managed to work out for me at least one. Yeah, I think G2 is the only one I want to try to get in. So let's take a quick look. G2, Alamau, Doki, Uno, Blaz, Loira, they looked really good at SI until they didn't, aka they were good in groups, and then they immediately got eliminated in bracket. Liquid, Nesk, Resets, Maya, Ask, Diaz, Lucas. I'm going to go with Liquid. This event's in Brazil, right? Yeah, it's in Rio. You have to imagine Liquid is going to be one of the most cheered for teams. I don't know that, is there a crowd for the first part? I kind of doubt it. I don't know if it specifies here. But even if there's not a crowd, just not having to travel as far, being more used to your surroundings. I guess Alamau and Loira are actually both Brazilians as well as their staff in Ramallo and Cameraman. But I'm gonna go with Liquid. I think G2 could certainly slide in over the likes of, again, one of the maybe Loud or M80 or Dark Zero. Yeah, I could see it. But I think these are the teams I'm gonna go with. The order doesn't matter, so feel free to do whatever. But those are going to be my picks. Let me know what your picks are if you think any of these teams are heinous picks, or if you think it is heinous that I excluded any of the teams that I did. But okay, I think that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for the video. I will catch you guys next time.